everybody! Wow, that was weird. Where are you, JW? Have you?
I'm. Wait, I gotta switch around. Hold on. Gotta move you around. There we go. Perfect.
You know,
Much better.
it's like playing
Sorry about that.
three card host right there. Three card.
Well, yeah, just I'm working. I'm working the different thing at the Port Authority is where I'm trying to ply my trade.
Well, thank you, JW, for stepping in for Mr. Ridgely tonight, who is watching his pitiful Giants get their asses kicked. Hello, everybody. I am David Lee Madison. Of course, this is the end of the night, episode 9346. I, of course, am David Lee Madison, the schmuck who runs this train wreck. And this right here is my dear friend and my co-host tonight and my pal for over a decade now, J.W. Caldwell.
We've been together for a while.
Yeah.
We've been fighting and futzing and talking, and then you've been pants styling me lately, like
yes.
a lot.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I guess they're. I don't know. There's just something wrong with my.
The universe. Well, no, the universe just wants us together, is what it is.
Yes. Usually, like when I'm in Walmart for some bizarre reason, it's like.
Yeah, you're behind a shop. You usually push up behind a shopping cart, and I'm like,
yeah.
What's going on? You okay? Everything all right? And you're like,
You hear my wife cussing at me and calling me all kinds of horrific names and all that jazz.
Yeah.
I thought I thought Joe would be here tonight because he has his big gig next week. Do you have a show? Do you have any info on that so that we could promote it?
We do. We have this big thing coming up on Tuesday, September 12th. This is the second show in the Path to Phantasm Orlando, which of course is this big horror movie gig that's coming up next week. Actually, literally next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Joe and I will be there. We're going to host the next show. And we're going to have Bill Slevin on. We're going to have Sean Hates, who has this big indie movie called Cannibal Comedian that's making the rounds and doing a lot of cool things. Nick Benson's going to be joining us from Night of the Demons and so much more. And Tamara Glynn of Halloween 5, Terrifier 2. Also, more people from Phantasm, including the incredible Shelley Stokes, and Tony Greco, who's in charge of Phantasm, and some Harlow's Haunt Crew coming up for the show on the 12th. We had a great show on the 5th. It was amazing. The 12th show should be, same bad time, same bad channel as we go on our path to Phantasm. And Joe and I are going to it live next week. So we should be known, we are also been invited to moderate Felissa Rose's Q&A. So
that should be a blast.
It should be really cool on Friday afternoon at 4:00.
Now, Grunkle Scott Schiaffo had a really big gig this weekend in New Jersey, the Trenton Flea Market, with the entire cast of Clerks out there signing autographs. He was out there with Kevin and Jay Muse and Brian and Jeff and Marilyn. And, that Schmeckel said he was going to be on tonight, but apparently
he has not shown up. He's not shown up, but if he does, I will let you know he has arrived, and we will bring him in. Yeah. Sometimes you get a little verklempt when you're getting back from the cons.
No, I hear you. Yeah. I think, and this is the God's honest truth. Speaking of cons, this Saturday and Sunday coming up, I will be at SC HorrorCon in Columbia, South Carolina.
There you are.
There's that handsome bastard. I'll be there with the infamous but lovely Tiffany Shepis. She's going to ride her brew in from California to join us. Of course,
Tiffany's had a big run right now. She's currently on the newest, hottest Star Trek show, correct?
No, absolutely. It's she's on Picard season 3. I'm very, all kidding aside, I'm very proud of her. And her husband wrote almost every one of those really good episodes that appeared in season 3 Picard. So that's awesome. Not only is Tiffany going to be out there, but the legendary creator of what the hell is that movie? Night of the Living Dead, John Russo, will be out there. So John's a dear friend of mine. He's coming in from Pittsburgh, and we're all going to convene in Columbia, South Carolina, for what may be my very last convention appearance.
What?
So, yeah, I think I'm kind of.
How can you possibly say it's going to be your last convention when you're releasing a werewolf movie this October?
I'm glad you brought that up. October 26th. Right now, it's tentatively scheduled to be the world premiere of Full Moon Fever. It's going to be a star-studded event that's going to be held actually in two cities, in New York City and in Pennsylvania at the Pocono Cinema. So we're going to have, maybe we'll have a show leading up to that because I'm pretty excited. But yeah, that's exciting stuff. But to be honest with you, I just don't know if I have, I've done probably conservatively maybe 75 to 100 shows in my life. And I'm not a, everybody.
I think you're cutting yourself short here, especially when you have a werewolf movie coming out that you're really proud of and that you're going to want to promote, and the cons are a good place to promote these things.
I look at it this way: my werewolf movie, when it comes out on streaming, will be available in over 200 million American homes, and hopefully people will watch my werewolf movie. And word of mouth, and people will dig my werewolf movie. You don't have to see a schmuck like me running around signing boobs to get excited to get the show on the road. But I don't. It's more of a more of just how I feel about the whole convention.
A laissez-faire about the con thing? Is it that you just feel the con thing has run its course in your life?
No, not at all. I'm super excited to be going this weekend to see my dear friend Jason Moulton's running. This is like the first big horror con in South Carolina. So I'm super excited to be a part of that. It's more just me getting old and like cranky and like get off my lawnish,
Yo, get away from my booth. Get out of here.
Get out of here, you damn
Get out of here, kid.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting in the sense that, again, I think your con life, whether if it's over, if it indeed is over, I don't think it is.
Okay.
If it is over, I just don't. What?
Okay.
He brought himself in, and he's muted. I don't understand.
It's a bot.
I did nothing. I didn't do any of this. Joe.
Maybe he butt dialed us.
Maybe he butt dialed us. Hold on, wait. Maybe he did butt dial us. There's nothing in private.
Somebody didn't turn the ticker on. I had to turn it on.
Okay, Joe.
The ticker?
Down the bottom.
Oh.
Somebody didn't put it in the notes. Just saying. I'm sorry. Go back to your Giants game. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
Are you okay, Joe?
You got yelled at by.
I got yelled at by Joe.
That
was amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't want Joe to yell at me anymore.
Put the freaking ticker on, man.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
I guess I
didn't even notice it wasn't there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry. Let's look at some comments. Good evening, friends. Good evening, Ken McKernan. Thank you for joining us from Canada. He's from Canada. Let's see. And then Joe just started writing. Good evening, gentlemen. Thanks again, JW. I enjoyed my quality time with my son and my grandson. Is it quality time when you're down by 26, though?
David,
just asking.
David needs to go back to the flip phone. What the hell does that even mean?
I don't even know. That's not me. I didn't say that. And then did the show just start? And I'm like, no, we've been on for like 10 minutes, Scott. Rest in peace, the tall man. Are you
maybe I died and I'm just not aware of it.
Angus Scrim? See, I always view Angus Scrim as the tall man, but he's been passed away a while.
Yes.
I feel like Scott maybe just be getting this news.
I hate to break it to him, pal. Hey, Sean, I hope you're well.
Sean Smithson, hey brother, how you doing, Sean? Good to see you. Sean writes, Full Moon Fever, excited for it and you.
Oh, thank you, Sean.
I think everybody, I think everybody is very excited about this world. First off, I do love werewolf films, so you know this. I was telling you, we were talking about making great werewolf films. I told you, it's a genre I find myself very attracted to in the horror genre. So
what's very funny about it? Seems like everybody who's making, and they seem to be very popular right now. I've decided to do this at the wrong time, but I actually decided to do it 3 years ago. I just took my sweet ass time doing it.
Well, and COVID, right. It's not the sweet ass. You had a pandemic.
Everybody seems to be trying to reinvent the mythos of werewolf films, and that's kind of what they're all
Yeah.
selling their werewolf films on. I'm going to tell you right now that in my werewolf film, you require a full moon for the werewolf to transform.
I mean, they
You,
can't just change at will.
You need to kill him with a silver object or a silver bullet.
So like a cane.
And he likes milk bones. So I'm going back to old school. Where I'm going
Traditional werewolf fare.
Yeah, the real stuff.
Ken writes, "Come on, Scott does 75 shows a month. He works hard, but Scott deserves it. He works hard. He goes out, and he gets to hang out with really cool people." Libby McDermott, great smiles, guys. Thank you, Libby. That's the first. Thank you for saying that.
There's no
I
better
appreciate
smile. I mean, have you ever met Libby?
I've never met Libby. No, I've seen her on the show.
She, of course, is in Full Moon Fever and does an absolutely fantastic job. And she's one.
That's cool.
She's one of those people that is just so unbelievably beautiful and kind. So thank you for watching, Libby. I hope you.
Well, that means the smiles comment's even better.
Yes.
Okay, so he writes, J.W. and David was butt dialing him. Flip phones don't have that issue.
Oh, okay, he's got a point.
Okay, he's got a point there. Yeah. And then 2 more comments, and then we have a guest. Halftime is over. See ya. Okay, so apparently we were just good enough for halftime, David.
Oh, okay.
Which is fine. Okay, he can then get back to the drubbing. How many milk bones were consumed during filming, David?
We went over 5 tons of milk bones. It's a really big werewolf.
I believe it's a Guinness record as well.
You know what? We have David is a hot. Whoa! Who's that? Thank you. It's very, very kind of you to say.
She obviously doesn't know you.
Oh, bastard!
Son of a bitch.
When he finally says something nice about me, and you have to take it away. You're just that. You're that guy, Joe. You're that guy.
I try to be. Mm-hmm. I feel it would have been taken away from me, but anyway, I'm super excited about this guest. Every once in a while, well, in the last actually 3 weeks, you guys have kind of leaned into the musical aspects of what's going on, because a lot of the shows you guys would have are being put on hold because of the WGA strike and the Screen Actors Guild.
Sadly, all the actors out there don't want to come on shows and talk about their projects or even their old projects.
Well, they can't. Yeah, it's bad though.
Yeah.
It's bad for the business and it's bad for podcasters. But what has happened though that I think is amazing, David, is that you guys have kind of leaned into finding a musical bend for the show.
Yes.
It's kind of like one of those happy accidents where, a couple weeks ago you had Bill Sadler on, famous for playing Death, famous for playing the evil Colonel in Die Hard 2, but there he is, like, belting out ballads, and it was incredible.
So
and then
I just watched The Mist the other night, which is one of my favorite horror movies of the last 20
so great.
Years.
He's great.
And I didn't even realize. I'm like, hey, Bill's in this movie.
Yeah, he plays one of the crackpots.
He's like in it.
Yeah.
He's like in everything. You know what? We shouldn't keep our wonderful and talented guest
I agree.
longer with our stupidity. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I want to introduce to you guys a wonderful vocalist, a songwriter, and just a great overall musician. I'm a big fan of her. I follow her on all her social medias. Ladies and gentlemen, Crisie Isbell.
Don't forget also an Elvira impersonator.
Elvira also.
Hi, Crisie. How are you?
Hey,
Evening,
what's
Crisie.
up, guys? Y'all are so sweet.
We try to be.
Did y'all hear I started a podcast, the Crisie Isbell Show?
Yeah, I seen it on your Facebook page. What night is it? When is it? Where can people find it? When is it on?
Okay, so here's the backstory to that. It's on Tony Kurre Radio. The whole time I was young and in my early 20s, and the most popular radio DJ where I live was Tony Kurre. Mm-hmm. And so, all of my partying in my younger days, us drinking beer on the river, we were all drinking beer, listening to Tony. But he played all of the really cool classic rock. It was really the coolest radio station. So then when I got in my early 20s, I started to do Venus swimwear and Hawaiian tropic bikini contests. And I did really good at it. But anyway, Tony
I was also very good at it.
Yeah,
I was also amazing.
JW was literally... for years.
Amazing.
Yeah, I bet. Right.
Yeah, I was the Hawaiian punch man that came through the window, the door, just hey Kool-Aid, that sort of thing.
But that was my early 20s. It was fun. I mean, I'm in my 40s now, but Tony was the MC.
Mhm.
So that's how I met Tony, because he did all of the bikini contests. And so he started his own, it's like there's an app, Tony Kurre Radio, and he had no females. So he contacted me and he was like, I know you've never done anything like this before, but please, do a podcast for my channel, Tony Kurre Radio. And I was like, well, okay, but you know how I am. I'm just going to say whatever. And he was like, yeah, you're just so much fun and entertaining. So it's really cool because I get to play any music that I want. And I play one of my songs on every show. And I talk about anything that I want to. And when I recorded the last podcast last night, I talked about horror flicks today versus horror flicks, that I grew up watching, because I've always just really been into horror. My mom and her sisters worked at the local haunted house. And listen to this, the year that I was born was 1978. I was born in April. My mom worked at the haunted house that year. And that is the year that Halloween came out. Michael Myers, John Carpenter's, that is the year that came out. Was the year I was born.
I
So
graduated
basically,
high school in 1978, actually.
You're taking full credit for Halloween then?
No, I'm just saying, I feel like things with me hit at the perfect time, because when I was a kid, Elvira, I would beg to stay up. It was the 80s. Please let me stay up and watch Elvira. So think about it. I watched a lot of black and white horror movies with my mom, because she was born in the 50s. But before Michael Myers, I mean, in the 80s, we had this big explosion, and we had, Friday the 13th, and, there was Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers, it was just like this big explosion in the 80s when I was growing up. So it's like I hit that wave, So for me to do Elvira,
do you have a favorite? You're saying Halloween, obviously, but do you have a favorite 80s horror flick?
Yes. And last night I stayed up. I couldn't sleep, or night before last, and I rewatched the Sleepaway Camps. Do y'all remember those from the 80s?
Yes.
Remember the killer was Angela?
Yes.
Yeah, it was the only one that had a chick. But me and my mom used to watch those.
I mean, she was a chick, but then.
But she had the surgery, and there was that whole story. But when I was a kid, to me, I was like, oh my God, it's a chick killing people. I can't believe it, because usually it was a guy or somebody that couldn't be killed. So it was just a different spin on things. But yeah, I love 80s horror flicks.
She's been on the show a couple times, actually, Felissa.
And
really,
we're moderating her thing this week at Fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so we're big fans.
That's so weird. Yeah, that was great. So I love Sleepaway Camp.
Are you against? Do you feel 80s horror films are better than newer horror films?
I do. I'm partial. Like I was saying on the podcast last night. I mean, I know it was typical, but it was just the typical, okay, people get naked, they're doing it in the woods, then they're slaughtered. I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like in the 80s films, there was just so much fun and excitement. It was just a different vibe, I don't know.
Do you guys have any getting it on in the woods stories?
Oh my God.
I
guess you do, because I have a really funny one.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm gonna say no. I make good choices and try to avoid the woods.
Okay.
Big guys can't do stuff in the woods.
When I was literally in college, I was in a place called Child State Park, which was just unbelievably beautiful with giant waterfalls, and it was just and me and a lovely lady who will rename nameless. We're walking around, and there, right under this like bridge that walks under the waterfalls, was this giant boulder, and for some reason it just seemed like the perfect place to get frisky. So we got frisky, and in the throes of passion, I look up to the bridge, which was about 40 feet above us, and there's literally like 15 Asian tourists on there taking pictures
Of course. Of course.
Thank God there was no cell
Hey.
phones.
That's hysterical. Hey.
Oh,
Well, when I was actually pregnant with my daughter,
Mhm.
and when I got in the shower with my husband, because we're big hunters, it's pretty common knowledge. I'm real competitive with that. But anyway, I had ticks all over me.
Oof.
I mean, all over me. But,
this is a reason not
like
to
we
do
had to
things in
find
the
them.
woods.
Right, right. But I love the outdoors, though. I'm very feral. I grew up that way. I'd much rather be outside than inside any day.
Fair enough.
Okay. I guess the old tick story. It depends on where they were.
But no, this is Missouri, though. Missouri is a totally different animal
Mhm.
than Alabama, because that's where I get my big bucks, is up in Missouri.
By the way, I want to say hello to Wendy Zier, who has a show on the network, who's watching this right now. Wendy, I hope you're well. She says,
Yeah, Wendy
"Girls,
says,
ladies."
hi guys.
And,
Ken writes, hi, Chrissy.
Hey,
Angie Dunham Hahn says, watching.
hi, Andy.
hey.
Ken says, 70s horror films, The Omen and Amityville.
Now, I do. There's a lot of older ones that I like, especially the car.
Oh, the James Brolin movie, right?
The car with the big black car, and it's got like a train horn or something, and it'll just mow people over. That's a cool
Chrissy,
movie.
do me a favor. Do me a favor. Turn your volume down for us.
Okay.
Just
It's
a little bit.
a little bit.
Okay.
I
Can you
think
still
it
hear
might
us?
work better. Can you still hear us?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
Okay.
awesome.
Let's see. Wendy
Did
says,
you like Trilogy of Terror? That's the one with the little doll that chases Karen Black around with the big steak knife.
Believe it or not, I have not seen that, and I feel like I've seen everything. I've even seen The House from the '80s. I mean, just all
House.
kinds of B-rate
William Cat. That's a
stuff
great
that I've
movie.
watched. It
Fun
really
movie.
is.
He was on the show too, William Cat.
Really,
Yeah.
I
Yes.
love horror. I
guess
love
a
you
better
guys.
question
This is
who hasn't
great.
been on the show is probably a better question.
Wendy writes, girls can be serial killers. Good to know
Yes.
for us, David.
Which frightens me because I plan on having lunch with Wendy on Friday. So
Good to know, though, that for random comments,
Hmm.
girls can be serial killers. I guess female empowerment. Girl power. And then there's a franchise called Don't Fuck in the Woods.
Okay.
Fair. I feel like that's a general rule for the franchise.
I mean, it's horrible, but like what I was saying was it kind of jolted me, because when I watched Sleepaway Camp Part 2, it's like all of a sudden they cut to the scene, and I mean, this girl's like completely naked and she's slinging her 80s hair around, and I'm talking about she was riding this guy all the way to town, and I was like, only on the 80s flicks would it be like this, It was really hysterical to me.
That is true. We've kind of lost most of the horror films that have been released in since 2000 on are trying for the PG-13 rating. I think
that's thank
part
God.
of it.
That is what I said last night, and I was wondering if anyone noticed that, because I just watched the Chucky series, and every time somebody was about to die, it would cut to something else. And I was like, when I grew up, I remember Jason, and I was a kid, grabbed a guy by the arm, slammed him against a tree, and his arm came off.
Right.
Like, we weren't spared anything, but for us, it was humor. And that may sound dark, but like me and my mom and all of us, we laughed a lot
They
watching
don't make
horror
campy
flicks.
horror movies anymore. That's
No.
a sad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to bring
I
back
agree.
the campy. I'm going to bring back the campy horror movie.
Yeah, you're working very hard at it.
I want to discuss your album Battle Scars, which I just think is, all kidding aside, I think is a really fantastic album.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody ever told you this, but you have you have a cross between a Jewel vibe and a
Hmm.
cross between a Sheryl Crow vibe,
Right.
and the album takes you on like a musical journey where some of the songs sounded very country-esque, some of the
Hmm.
songs sound like a ass-kicking bar like George Thorogood music, and
There's a
some of the
reason.
and some of the songs are like very pop and radio friendly. Tell us how this album came together, and tell us about some of the songs, because I really want everybody who's watching tonight to seek out this album.
Hmm.
My wife listened to it before, and it's now going
Oh,
to be what she listens to on her way to work in the car every day, because she
It's a
just
very
loves
good
it.
album. Blood, Sweat, and
thank
Tears have
you.
obviously gone into it.
Yes,
And
yes.
I,
Y'all have no
I love the
idea.
fact that you're riding a tractor to pay for airtime in the studio. Is one of the
Thank
coolest
you.
things. That is a hard working woman.
Well,
Um,
like I said, I grew up around a cattle farm, but the thing is, you can make like $200 a day bush hogging. I mean, that adds
just
up.
what is Can you describe
Bush
for our
hogging or
audience
disking.
either one? It hasn't been
Okay.
dropped on the show before, so we are a learning show. We are a learning network. I do a show all about movies. David does all these great things where he brings in all these people and tells us different walks of life. What is butch hogging or diskin?
Right.
Tell
Okay.
me.
So if you have a field that needs to be cut, like the grass cut,
Hmm.
that's bush hogging.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're just pulling a deck behind you that's got blades spinning.
Like a big lawnmower.
Yeah, but it's like you attach an attachment to the tractor of what you want to do.
Oh,
So
sweet.
then discing, you attach something different to it, and it's got these teeth, and it digs up the ground so that someone can plant a field of something like corn or soybeans or whatever. Like I'm about to do it in my yard because I plant a big field of sunflowers this time of year every year because it's my favorite flower. I like to take pictures in them. They just make me happy.
Do you have a pumpkin patch?
I have done that, but this year, I mean, I'm getting so busy with everything that I've got going on. So it's like I've just got to choose.
You seem
And
like a pumpkin
pumpkins are
patch person.
remarkably,
I
David.
love
Pumpkins are
pumpkins.
remarkably hard to raise.
Right.
They
Pumpkins are a
are,
pain in the. They're a pain in the ass.
I tried like 3 times and I'm 0 for 3.
yeah.
We put some in, and we put some in our little garden down here in Florida. And the pumpkin patch, we had like 4 or 5 pumpkins
They'll
lined up,
start, but
and
that don't mean they're going to finish.
Yeah.
they took over though. Like they folded
Hmm.
into everything else, and
Yeah,
we're like,
they're running vines.
yeah, they're running vines. It's wild,
Hmm.
really hard to do.
I got some beautiful orange flowers, and that was pretty much the end of story.
Oh yeah, they do have really pretty flowers. I just dug up a bunch of sweet potatoes that I had growing. I love sweet potatoes and butternut squash. They're really easy to grow.
So back to Battle Scars. I don't want to just
Yeah.
gloss over it because it really is a fantastic record. Tell me a little bit about track number 4, which is one of my favorites, called "My Last Soul."
Oh, yeah. I did a really beautiful music video to that, but I write my own songs. And what My Last Soul was about is I was talking to a friend, and she married the love of her life, and he was a fantastic guitar player. He traveled all over the world, and they were like lovers. And anyway, he just suddenly had a heart attack and passed away. And here she is heading for her late 50s. And I just got to thinking about it because by that time, if that happens again, that'll be the last time,
Hmm.
my last soul. And I just thought about just the vulnerability of giving your soul away to another person. And when you're in certain stages of life, you want it to be permanent. Like, this is the last time I'm going to do this. So, if that makes sense.
That's how I feel about doing horror conventions. I was like, I'm not doing them anymore.
I feel he's gonna do them again.
I don't know.
I don't know.
If you want to
But
see
no,
me,
but that's a really interesting thing, and the idea of being empathetic with your music. Your music has distinct things where you're empathetic either with a walk of life, like being a member of the hunter class with the video with your granddad. It looks like a grandfather taking the little girl out, and doing like the hunterly things. I think that's a real interesting thing, is that your music is also empathetic and cross-generational. And is that something that you're working on? Is that something you throw out into every song you sing?
I just think that music is timeless, and what I do is if I have an idea or a feeling, which everything I write about, I want it to be something really from my life, something real that I'm pulling from. I go 100% with that idea. I don't care about a genre or anything like that. That's why every song on my album is completely different. So when it was put on the Grammy ballad, they were struggling because they didn't know what genre to put it in. So it ended up to be in a grassroots genre. But My Last Soul, I'm a huge Ray Charles fan. I'm a huge Aretha Franklin fan. I have Billie Holiday records, and I love soul music. I grew up listening to it. And that was a soul song, so I had to commit to a soul song. And the instruments have to be accordingly. But I'm a huge Stevie Nicks and Tom Petty fan. So there's a lot of guitar, and it is kind of like a grassroots feel to a lot of my songs.
Yeah, it also has a John Mellencamp vibe to it. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, because like I was telling you, when I was young, I grew up singing in bars along the river because I grew up around the river. During the day, there were restaurants, but then at night, they would turn into bars. And my producer's always saying I need a good publicist, and I just laugh. But I tell the truth. And I was young. They knew that I was underage, but I could do it. So back then, for me singing in bars, think about it. It was Creedence Clearwater Revival. It was Janis Joplin, Stevie Nicks. We were all listening to Tom Petty and John Mellencamp and Bruce Springsteen and Bob Seger and the Eagles, and then we'd listen to the Eagles again. So,
what state was this where you were working the bars along the river? What state?
Alabama. So this was, you could pull up to the bar in your boat, or you could drive to it. And it was just in this country town along the river. And there was no like camera phones or internet. It was just a totally different thing. So I could sing, I had a good voice. So I would go down there and they would let me sing. And I'd shoot pool and all that stuff.
Are any of the bars you sang in when you were younger still around? Like
Same owner. I still talk to her. I go there and I'm like, hey, I'm at home. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep. I take my family there.
Tell me a little bit about Howlin' at the Moon, which is like, as a guy who's a werewolf in his next movie, it's a great title, and it's really a great song.
I love the moon. Me and my best friend, when we would leave the bar, like I said, it was out in the woods. Like you really had to drive these back roads to even get to these places, not in the city, but everybody flocked to it. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. You would have to do this just to walk through and get to the bathroom, but anyway, there were these back roads that wide off going home. And there was a stretch to where the logging company cut down these trees. So you could see the moon really big. And we always did this best friend thing to where she'd turn the lights off on her Mustang. And we would howl whatever song was on, Bob Seger or the Eagles. And we would be screaming the song, driving that stretch to just the moonlight. That was it.
Sweet.
So we were howling at the moon.
When you describe these bars, do you guys get the Roadhouse kind of vibe behind you?
I get the howling vibe, actually, since we're talking werewolf.
Oh.
I get the bar at the end of the howling.
How about the bar Near Dark?
That bar, yes.
I think it's just more like the southern, like if you imagine, I don't know, Cajun, Louisiana, like just regular, fun, outgoing Southern people.
I know these type of places well because oddly
Yeah.
enough, I grew up. I spent a lot of time in Coppers Cove, Texas, which is in the middle of Texas, in the middle of nowhere, and they have very many establishments like that. But
Hmm.
I of course moved to the Northeast and was educated at really nerdy preppy high schools and colleges. So I no longer sound like a Texan. But at one time, I was very tan and wore cowboy hats and spoke like a Texan. You know what's funny? John Hillerman, who played Higgins in Magnum
Higgins
PI,
on Magnum
who everybody would think was an English scholar, was a Texan who had a deep Texas accent.
Yeah.
That's useless
Well-
information.
That is great information. Also, with regards to bars, David lives in northeastern Pennsylvania right now. I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania. There is literally on every street corner in Scranton, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, there is a bar and a funeral home. So, like, it's
one-stop
like
shopping.
It's one-stop shopping.
Right.
You spend a lot of time at that place. You end up at that place. So I understand, like, the bars where you're stuck in the corner, you're elbowing your way in, and you can just feel hot breath on your whatever neck
Yes.
you have, and it's just like,
We would sweat so bad.
Stop
Oh my
touching me.
gosh. I mean, those were some fun summers, though. Those were great.
Tell me a little bit about your love for Elvira and your impersonations of Elvira.
Oh my gosh. It was just so meant to be. And check this out. So I finished school early. I've always made just like straight A's. It's ridiculous. But anyway, when I was in high school, I wrote the school newspaper and I had a poetry column. So I've always been a writer, but I used to read Anne Rice novels. I started when I was 15, and I'm like the biggest Anne Rice fan ever. So long story short, I get the job as Elvira, and I just love New Orleans because I love all not the fake stories, but the true stories there of ghost stories and vampires and all of that. So I stop in this Voodoo Mama shop, and I was just shooting the shit. I talk to anybody. I just talk to everybody. And I was showing this lady pictures of me as Elvira, and Anne Rice had just passed away. And she said, well, I'll run the Anne Rice ball. We're going to do a memorial to her. Do you want to MC it? And I was like, you are shitting me. I mean,
the answer is
is
yes.
this real? Yes. And so she has a lot of people there every year that they come as the same character. Like there's a Lestat, there's a Louis, from the vampire films. And it was just wonderful. After the vampire ball, we went down by the water and we had this whole memorial to Anne Rice. I couldn't believe I was there and her picture was up. They had a bowl of water and they were turning it. They had this paper that dissolves and you write one word on it that means, what Anne Rice means to you. And they melted it in the water and poured it on her grave. And it just meant a lot to me because I really got into her books because I couldn't believe that there was a female that was making a living doing what I do, because I started writing, I was only 7. So I just, it was meant to be. It really meant so much to me. I was there dressed as Elvira, but still. So I'm there, but I wasn't even me. I was like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, but and I'm here, I mean, it's just grown. The Elvira thing just got way bigger than. See, got on the Grammy ballot in the charts, and my hometown had opened a haunted house in my hometown of Vincent, and so they called because they wanted to do good, be big, and they had been open a couple of years, and they were like, "Look, what do you think about being Elvira?" And I thought, oh my God, I am going to be the best damn Elvira. I was like, I'm going to knock this shit out of the ballpark. But I didn't realize it would grow like it did. I ended up doing commercials as her and being on billboards. And then now I'm doing my thing in New Orleans every year. And, I couldn't be happier. I'm her biggest fan.
Do you have a favorite Anne Rice book? And a side note, do you have a favorite particular vampire of Anne Rice that you love? That a character you love? I mean, everybody, don't say Lestat because that's boring. Pick somebody else.
I have to pick somebody else.
No, you can pick Lestat. I'm just kidding. I'm just here running
Well,
a show trying to get cool answers.
The reason why I loved him is because he was a musician. So when I would read her books, I listened to a lot of classical music because he was a violinist and he would lure, his victims in, sometimes playing violin. And, he was a musician. I thought he was just wonderful. She really developed that character, but I really liked.
I agree. The power of sensuality coupled with music, coupled with vampires.
She worked hard on him. I'm just saying, being a writer, and like I talked about on my podcast, I have never gotten anything published, and I'm about to. And I said that I was like Marty McFly's dad over my shit on my podcast, and I make fun of myself because I'm real critical with my stuff. Like, oh my God, what if they don't like it, and all of that. But my favorite book by her has got to be Tale of the Body Thief.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what that one was about.
Yeah, it's a very cool book.
Just the concept, I thought, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
So, because the way that someone's mannerisms are and the way they move and talk, even if they were in another body, they'd still be them. There's a lot that you can do with that concept, but
there is. Now, are you going to go back as Elvira, or are you going to say? I think it would be pretty easy for you to make an Anne Rice-ish vampire for yourself. Is that something you're going to do, or are you sticking with the Elvira? Because I think you could do your own vampire.
I can't believe you said that, but nobody knows this, but it's like I got Elvira down to a T, and I keep the 1980s style, and she wears the 80s heels and all of that. But just being an artist and just being real creative, I actually went and I thought, what if I created my own character? And I was like, why is there not someone that's like a mistress of the dark, or someone goth that has really big black curly hair? Why is it always this straight? So I went and bought a wig, actually, and it's real hair. It's really pretty to work on that character that I'm seeing in my head. Like, because I asked myself that, like, what if I created my own goth character? What would that be like? So
there you go.
That would be cool.
That would be super cool.
So we were speaking a little bit earlier before the show in what we call the green room, where we prep for the show beforehand, and you were telling me that you have some new music you're working on. Is there anything you want to share with us about that process?
Wow. Okay. So before I die, I'm trying to do every kind of sound that I love and that I want to do. And I was listening to some really swampy, like dark blues sounding, like if you look up on YouTube or you Google dark blues, it's got that swampy slide guitar, like a haunted Western is what it sounds like to me, like a haunted Western. And so I've wrote a song to go with that kind of music. And the song is called These Pills. And I wrote it about coming off of, I almost died in a car accident, and I share it on my social media all the time. So I have equipment in my spine, and I went through this horrible pill addiction, and that's what the doctors do. You get on these prescriptions. So I had to go through withdrawals and start doing yoga and start taking all these vitamins and like go down a different road. And that's a dark experience. And that's why I wanted to use those lyrics with that type of music. So to me, I think that's the song that I'm most excited about.
That's awesome.
Is that one?
The fact that you want to explore music and do all the music you love is pretty epic. I mean, I made a Christmas album, and it pretty much sucks ass because I had a bunch of hacks with me, but
Talented hacks.
talented. Yeah.
Talented hacks.
But
I was not one of them.
I always
I'm
wanted
just
to,
speaking for the hacks.
I always wanted to be Bing Crosby, but the big difference between me and Bing Crosby is Bing had like a ton of talent. So sadly, I have to kind of go through life just wishing that I could create music. But you are like absurdly, ridiculously talented as far as being
Thank you.
a versatile vocalist. And this isn't like an old man who's hitting up on you. It's just a guy who's being
Yeah.
totally honest with you. You have a really really
We are
super
guys
talent.
that know our limitations.
Yeah, we're guys. I've been married for 30 years.
We know our limitations.
I've given up on everything that's related to women. Trust me.
I think it's
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that your song is dark, like Western noir is how I would call it, like a Western noir. And the idea that everybody is going through that, the stuff that's happening in the world right now, your song
It's
probably
needed.
need to be heard. I do like that you call the stuff in your back equipment. I can appreciate that. So
It sucks.
I have equipment. I just some extra stuff. I bring it with me. I fly with it. And
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I got
It's like
you.
I'm the Tin Man, you know.
You know, this is something
So-
that you probably would have really dug. But in 2019, I put together a convention in a place called Wild West City,
Hmm.
and it's a complete Western town replica of Carson City from like 1880. And what was really cool
Wow.
was the first convention of its kind that not only did you go and meet really high-end horror celebrities, you got to watch haunted Western shows. Like, so every hour there would be like the Headless Horseman would run through town with literally,
wow.
literally a flaming pumpkin in his hand. He throws
That's
it at the sheriff.
cool.
The sheriff starts shooting. It was like really the coolest thing. And I don't know why people don't explore like horror westerns anymore, because there's
Yes.
so much it's
Dark.
yeah.
Western, like when I first started hearing it, I was like, oh, finally. I mean, because people who know me know I'm like really into horror, but I'm a really big history buff because fact is so much stranger than fiction, especially like I was telling y'all in New Orleans. But the West really was wild. Like when you study those characters like Quanah Parker, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Think about it, or
Yeah.
Billy the Kid, and I mean, it was really incredible. I mean, they committed crimes. They were rough. They were rugged. I've been reading this book about Quanah Parker. I don't know if you know who he is, but he was the last chief of the Comanches. And the reason why they were the last tribe to take down is because their torture was like, if you read about it, it was worse than like the freaking mafia. I mean, that shit was crazy. Well, anyway, Quanah was laughing because these white guys were trying to write out, and they wrote about, they were trying to watch him, get close to him, that sort of thing. And he was chief, and he laughed at them and made fun of them because they were struggling so freaking bad to survive, and how Quanah was surviving out there, because in the West there's not like a lot of water. They would cut open the stomach of a cow and drink the contents. That is how hardcore these guys were.
Have you ever, David, have you ever seen, speaking of Western horror, have you ever seen the movie called Bone Tomahawk?
I haven't.
I have not, but
recommend
there
it
needs
to
to
you.
be more.
I'm
With
an
Kurt
Oblivion.
Russell.
I'm an Oblivion fan.
Oblivion's great. That's a good horror. That's fun.
That's a
Bone
good
Tomahawk has Kurt Russell. It's really well done. It's very scary.
Oh, I've seen that, and it really freaked me out. I actually stepped away a couple of times. I was wondering if that's what you were talking about when they started chopping that guy in between the legs.
It's rough.
I said, "Wow!" I stepped out for a second. That was intense. But yeah, think about it.
Why did you step out? You've seen that stuff before.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen it. I was just like, man, I mean, that guy was screaming. I was like, this is great. I was not expecting that.
I got you.
I was not expecting that.
So, Crisie, tell everybody where they can find you on social media to follow you and your great work.
Okay. Well, my name is spelled really weird, but it's Crisie Isbell, and I have a Crisie Isbell musician page on my Facebook. It's under Crisie Isbell musician, and then I have an Instagram. And then if you go to CrisieIsbellMusic.com, I have a whole website. It's got a page for Elvira and a page for me, and you can download my album. And I just got the X or Twitter, so I'm just getting started on that. And
Whatever it is today.
whatever it is. So
I want to
You know.
direct everybody who's watching this broadcast tonight live and in the future when you watch it on replays. Make sure you check out her album, Battle Scars. All kidding aside, it's
Thank
a
you.
fantastic album. It's wonderful. Support indie artists who put that much effort into it.
Yeah.
It's so extraordinarily polished, so well produced. So I
Frank did a great job.
I guarantee that you will not be disappointed because it's just a fantastic album. Crisie, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're awesome.
It was great.
I am a huge fan of yours.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work because you make great music, you make really entertaining videos, and you just seem to be a great sport and just like an overall, like you're the queen of Halloween.
And you're
Thank
an 80s
you.
horror
That's
fan,
all
so
I've
you're
ever wanted to
amazing.
be. is
One
the
last
Queen
question.
of Halloween.
One last question. Did you see Fright Night? If you're an 80s horror fan,
Yes.
did you
Yep.
like Fright Night?
Yeah. I mean, I like all the 80s, and I'm going to be honest. It's not 80s, but if I ever have a hard time falling asleep,
Mhm.
if you put
You
on,
watched Mr. Hush, right? No.
you know the Norman Bates Psycho?
Oh, right.
Okay, so you know the music where she's driving
Mhm.
because she had stole the money and it takes forever.
The Bernard Herrmann score? Yes, I know that very well.
If I can't sleep, I don't know what it is about that, but I'm just like a baby. I know that sounds weird because it's a horror flick, but that's a good score.
It's one of the very best scores in the history of film, actually.
Thank you. So it's not just me.
No.
I thought I was crazy. Nobody does that but me.
I fell
Nobody.
asleep to the Jaws theme, oddly enough.
And look, if
always
y'all
afraid
want to
somebody
watch a really good B-rate movie, watch Bubba Hotep.
Oh, I love that with Bruce Campbell and Ossie
Bubba
Davis.
Hotep.
He's my favorite. I love Bruce Campbell, and he did such a great job with the whole Elvis thing.
Elvis and JFK, baby, all the way.
Yes, that was a great movie.
It was great.
Again, Crisie, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please, if
Thank you.
ever
It was a
have
pleasure
anything-
meeting you.
If you
Good
ever
luck
have-
with
Thank you.
Elvira. Good luck with your horror festival, your
Thank
haunted
you.
hayride or whatever it is, and good
Yeah.
luck with good luck down in Ann Riceville. Be very careful. Don't fall victim. If they look too good to be true as vampires,
And
they
if
could be vampires. Just be careful.
They could be.
And if
They
you
could
have
be.
anything that you ever want to promote, please just reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to have you on.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I really
Pleasure
appreciate
meeting.
it, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Crisie Isbell.
She was great.
Yeah, you were quick on the hook. You couldn't even get her applause. Yeah. Oh,
You're back. We're giving you your applause. I'm sorry.
Okay.
too quick.
I didn't mean to be quick on the
Okay.
hook. I
That's
felt
okay.
bad.
JW's a rookie, so you have to apologize.
Oh,
It's
that
okay.
hurts. Thank you, Crisie. I did it again. It's
She's
fine.
like, "Ah."
It's like that's it. I'm out.
Off the double
here's-
A.
Yeah, it's fine.
Was it supposed to be
I'm
here
not-
today?
So I think what's really interesting is the amount of talent that's out there in the world.
Yeah.
And especially somebody like this, where she comes on and the song she's working on. Do you know how many people are going through addiction right now? You know what I mean? Where you just look up and I just got done with the Netflix movie Painkiller,
Mm-hmm.
the show about the Sacklers.
Mm-hmm.
Just what a really cool thing to take that from Grace and make a song and try to get it out there so so people know what you're going through, because maybe they need to hear it. They're going through the same thing.
And absolutely, and it seems like she's not only beat whatever issue she had, but she's actually thriving and doing wonderfully artistic things, and is just awesome. I'm a big fan of
Right,
her
with her
artistry.
equipment, which is a great way. That is a great way to go through life. Like, I'm a $6 million man. I'm the bionic woman. You know what I mean? Like, I have extra equipment. Everything's good. That's a great way to view it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's see. We have a couple comments. Let's see. Sean Smith and Bone Tomahawk is great. And then Ken writes awesome, which again could, I think, more applies to you and Crisie than me because I gave her the quick hook. But there's nothing I can do about that. I can't fix it now. She's gone. So
She's somewhere making a JW voodoo doll right now, and it's gonna
be really easy. You just need this extra stuffing, I guess. Like would be. So before we end tonight's show and get wherever we're going, do you have one? Like I was thinking about this because I'm gonna get ready to start watching movies as we get ready for Phantasm coming up this week. You know, do you have like, aside from Fright Night, do you have any movie that you watch every year around the spooky time?
I watch one horror movie every day. Of course, some days aren't permitting because I'm like in the car for 8 hours driving to like Massachusetts or something. But I try to make it a point to watch one horror movie a day from September 1st to October 30th. I usually I usually get maybe to 24 to 26 movies in that time frame. So it's not every day. It's a little more than every other day. And I have to watch every Halloween season The Bride of Frankenstein, which I think is not only the greatest horror movie ever made, but quite possibly the greatest movie ever made. It's just a fantastic movie.
James Whale, Dr. Pretorius, you got to get your fix in.
Yes.
It's incredibly well done, and when you couple that, like I always like to do little like double features. So like Bride of Frankenstein and Gods and Monsters, which is the movie about James Whale.
Right.
Really good double bill.
Oh, absolutely. For some reason, I always follow up because those movies are incredibly short. They're usually about 70 minutes. And
yeah.
If I watch Bride of Frankenstein, I always love the over-the-top Son of Frankenstein with Basil Rathbone. The fact that Basil Rathbone and Boris Karloff worked together and made a Frankenstein movie is just the greatest thing that may have ever happened.
We're getting ready on Generation Movie. We're finishing up 80s raunch comedies, and we're gonna do some Hammer horror films for October. So, we're going in and finding the Christopher Lee movie we want to do, finding the Peter Cushing movie we want to do. You know what I mean?
You have to do Horror Express.
That is one on the list.
Oh.
And then I was reading about some of the other ones they made, but they're not available anymore. Like you can't find them. They did a movie that sounds absolutely fascinating about the Yeti. Mm-hmm. There's like an abominable snow beast Hammer film where basically two groups of adventurers are on the same Himalayan mountain at the same time. And one of them doesn't know that they're hunting the Yeti and he's pushing the other people as bait. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. And then I looked it up and it's not streaming. It's not on Blu-ray or disc.
By the way, Joe is chiming in now. I finally started watching the monster movies in order. 2 in so far. You know why he's saying that? Because his Giants are losing 40-0. 40.
Well, I would definitely want to watch. I would definitely want to watch a Universal horror film instead of watching the Giants getting thumped by the Dallas Cowboys on national TV.
That's gotta hurt.
It's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah. You know what? I'll probably be suffering the same fate tomorrow night when my beloved Jets lose to the Bills with its horrific 9/11 denying quarterback on 9/11 in New York City. You got
a good defense and you got a good young wide receiver core.
Yeah, well,
I know you may not like the quarterback, but I actually think you have a really good team. A couple things. Great show. All can't wait to hear the song. Yeah, go check her out. You can find her a lot of places, especially her website. And you can definitely buy downloads of the song, which are really cool. I was looking at that today. This show is much better than the Giants game. We know, Joe. We miss you too. And then Ken writes new vampire movie out with Scout Taylor Compton called Captive.
Oh, sweet.
Nice. I'm always on the lookout for new horror films, trying to find stuff. But
Well,
You
next
have-
week, and we will not be on because you guys have Phantasm, and I'll be returning from SC
South Carolina.
Horror from Columbia, South Carolina. So we'll hopefully be back in 2 weeks. Hopefully the strike
you
will
have
be
this
over.
going on.
Yes, I have.
Look at
that.
you.
I look very serious. Look at that.
Look at like with the arms crossed, like you're scolding somebody in the front row for not.
Oh, that's
Not-
me and Brian looking at Grunkle Scott Schiaffo in the film Wits End, like he has two heads because he said something bizarre but just hysterically funny. So
I gotcha. Well, this was a good show tonight. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry.
Well, don't lie.
Sorry, I did some rookie mistakes. Sorry.
Chrissie was fantastic. And
She was amazing.
Extraordinarily interesting and talented and beautiful, and was just
And
fantastic.
gifted.
But you and I are pretty much, weren't all that great. So with that,
Mediocre. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
mediocre.
yeah,
Average at best.
we're kind of like back in the '80s when there was like Johnny Carson and David Letterman. We're kind of like Alan Thicke, Chevy Chase level, kind of.
The guy where I thought you were gonna go worse. I thought you were gonna be like, we were the guys in the studio audience watching Johnny Carson and
Yeah, no. We're not that bad.
we have shows.
I remember watching the Chevy Chase show.
Oh,
as a kid.
Chevy Chase show was
And
bad.
even
Pat
as-
Sajak was bad too.
Even as a kid, it broke my heart at how sad and pathetic that talk show was. But
And, well, it turns out he was. Think about it. As we progress through life with Chevy Chase, he's become kind of a pariah. Like of all the SNL people, the beloved SNL people, he is not on that list. You know what I mean?
yes.
So maybe
no,
this
I
show
know.
failed for a particular reason.
Good night,
you know?
Sean. I hope you are well. With that being said, JW, of course, thank you for stepping in. You were rusty stop tonight, the greatest pinch hitter in baseball history.
Oh,
Pinch
Mets
hit.
fan for life.
Yes.
I'm a Mets fan.
And you ripped a double into the gap, so that was fantastic. Again, thank you everybody for watching tonight. Thank you, Crisie Isbell, for joining us tonight. Everybody check out her social media pages. Check out her album, Battle Scars. You will not be disappointed. It's a fantastic album. I will be seeing everybody who's coming out to SC Horror in Columbia, South Carolina next weekend. Tiffany Shepis and John Russo and Tyler Main and a bunch of horror icons will be out there. You can come out and poke fun at me and throw pieces of bologna and whatever. Well, with that being said, thank you again, JW.
You're welcome.
And remember, no man's a failure who has friends. Good night, everybody.